And we are live. Yes, that's right. Tonight you get back to back episodes. So exciting, right? Ah, that's right. I take a drink of water. Very unprofessional. All right. So I'm going to keep this one very short. Um, Peacock. If you don't know what that is, it's a cool little, I don't know what you call it, app for your television. Anyway, Peacock streamed Five Nights at Freddy's before it was released in theaters. So, of course, I had to watch it. And I absolutely rubbed it in because the kids, I'm going to go to the theater. And I'm like, you want me to tell you how it ends? Eh, I thought that the movie was really well done. In many ways, it stuck to the games with the characters and everything, but it did deviate a little bit. And I know with movies, you can't stick exactly to the games, creative artistic expressions and all. But you know, I, I really liked it, and there there are some story arcs that hopefully, if they do a part two, they can really get into it because there's a few games out now, and if you don't know it, it's just really cool. I've played them; it's fun, but overall, again, it was a really good flick. So if you've never played the Five Nights at Freddy's games, or if you've never heard about them, then you've possibly been living under a rock. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But it really, over the last few years, it's really kind of developed a sort of cult following. And having played the games, I can see the appeal, especially if you like jump scares and kind of horror stories. It's really good. And let me give you all the basics, and I'm going to try to keep it PG-13, maybe. So, let me ask you this: Have you ever been to a place called Chuck E. Cheese back in the day? If you grew up in the Omaha, Nebraska area, I think there was one out in Des Moines, Iowa as well. But if you grew up in this area in the 80s or 90s, it was a very popular place for kids to have birthday parties, get-togethers, things like this. They had these animatronic 6 foot tall critters, I guess you'd say, and Chuck E. Cheese, he was actually like this large rodent. And thinking back, it was kind of terrifying. The things we liked in the 80s and 90s, yeah. But and as I was watching, Five Nights at Freddy's, uh, I noticed that they referenced Nebraska quite a bit. So I have a very strong feeling that perhaps Chuck E. Cheese could have, maybe been the inspiration for the Five Nights at Freddy's story or video games. So these games, this movie, this place, it has animatronics, and it's called Freddy Fazbear. And children would go there to play games, eat food, win tickets. I guess think of Dave and Buster's, but with big animatronics that sing songs and can actually walk around, interacting with guests. I don't know about you, but battery powered little, well, not little, huge fuzzy monstrosities walking around saying hello to everyone. It just seems really creepy. I guess I don't know. So again, trying to keep it PG-13, there was this, let's say, bad man, a bad man, and he did bad things to kids, to children. And in doing this, he trapped the souls of those children inside these animated puppets. But it wasn't just the souls that were contained inside these huge 7 foot tall animatronics. It was also their bodies, if you see what I'm saying here, right? The kids went missing. They don't know where the kids went. Okay. Okay. I think we're on the same page right now. So, but, but it actually gets worse because the bad man, He makes the kids do spirits of the kids acting through these animatronics. He makes them do horrible, even I guess you'd say sadistic things to other people. So when the place Freddy Fazbear's has been shut down for several years, and I'm just kind of giving you the basics on this. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. And they bring in a security guard to keep the kids and the vandals out of the building. But this job has a high turnover rate. Okay, security guards seem to disappear as well. And if you are unfortunate enough to get a security job keeping Freddy and his pals safe, it's not vandals you need to worry about. You see, at first, things just go bump in the night. The first couple or few days, you notice things have been moved or misplaced, maybe some whispers in the darkness or the sound of footsteps down corridors and hallways. But soon you find yourself running and hiding and fighting for survival. The oversized toys you're supposed to be there to protect, well, quickly you become the one needing protection from them. They will chase you through the building, down corridors, and yes, even through the air vents, because that's the plot of every awesome horror movie. Somehow we have vents that are actually large enough to hold people. I know it don't make any sense, but it looks good on camera and in video games. And honestly, guys, that's all that matters. So I'm sorry, my throat is really dry. Again, we had fires break out over here, and I think it's kicking my butt a little bit. So the only way to get these animatronics, the only way to get them to stop coming after you is by shining a light on them or turning the light on or whatever the case might be. The only problem is they keep killing the power supply, and you can't keep a light on three or four or five of them at the same time. So eventually, Mr. Security Guard, you become their next victim. And in one of the games, the characters, they're actually at this kid's house attempting to get him. He hides on the bed, shining a flashlight at the doors in his bedroom's closet door and his hallway door, attempting to stay alive and survive the night until the sun comes up. And then that continues on and on and on. I played that one quite a bit. It might make you go, oh my God, you might say some words I can't repeat here. That's all I'm trying to say. So before this movie came out, from what I understand, the same people that worked on or produced or whatever, with Freddy's, in many ways, they brought us actually two other movies. I think Banana Splits was another one. But there's another one that's probably quite a bit more well known, I guess you would say. And it is on the same premise. And it's called Willy's Wonderland. And I think it's awesome that it starred Nicolas Cage. Yes, I'm a fan. And if I'm being honest, I probably liked Willy's Wonderland just a little bit more. And if we could just have taken both of these movies and meshed them together, throw in Nicolas Cage, of course, he's got to be in the mix. And I think in doing this, they could have produced something that hands down would have been terrifying and amazing with just the right amount of comedy. I don't know, Five Nights at Willy's Horrorland, I guess we could call it. I said horror. So in Willy's Wonderland, Nicolas Cage, and I'm going to keep it really short. You should definitely watch it. Through a set of circumstances, he has to do a security gig at Willy's Wonderland overnight. It's this amusement game eatery kind of a place. It's very much like, the Five Nights at Freddy's premise. And he quickly learns that the animatronics are very much alive and evil and of course, hell-bent on his demise. So ultimately, Nicolas Cage, destroys everything in the place and walks away the hero. And hey, it's Nicolas Cage. That's what he does. So You know, after I finished watching Freddy's, my brain started to do what it does. It's so annoying. But I began thinking back to all of these reports, many of which from antiquity, where they talk about, the possession or the animation of inanimate objects, or directly utilizing occult spellcraft to create life, or in the case of a golem, like a guardian. um but then my mind kind of drifted somewhere else, and then I began thinking about the creation of tulpas. And you might be wondering, what is a tulpa? Get to the tulp. No, sorry. But it's something that was featured on the series Supernatural. You knew I was going to mention that, right? Every chance I get, I'm going to talk about, and toss out Supernatural. I can't help it. I like that series. I grew up watching the Winchesters. Just saying. So, but seriously, a tulpa is a physical manifestation of a mental construct, and I feel a little bit like Morpheus when I say that. Now, if you are a fan of Clyde Lewis or George Norrie or Art Bell, you've probably heard the word tulpa. But essentially, you have a person, or better yet, a group of people, and the larger the group, the better. And they all focus on one thing, be it Slender Man or Momo, tossing out some names that have been in the lexicon lately, a few years back. And well, in the case of Five Nights at Freddy's from the movie or the game, um, if enough mental or spiritual or emotional intent is focused on that character, then that entity can become physical and very, very real. So the concept of tulpas, it didn't really come to the Western world until the 1990s, at least not prominently. It was first modernly, I guess you would say, spoken of in the late 1800s, maybe 1869, I think it was. But the original concept of the tulpa comes to us from Buddhism. So it is a very ancient concept. It wasn't until the beginning of the 21st century that we were really introduced to these concepts, and the concept of what's called a tulpamancer. And it's kind of become like I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like a new age neo-Wiccan kind of a thing. So we yeah we now have groups of people deliberately creating, or drawings of imaginary creatures, then give them a backstory with their own identity, and attempt to get others to believe in it enough that this creation, it manifests in our reality. And with all that in mind, I'd like to mention that we do have people who argue monsters, the things that lurk in the dark, the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga. These things could perhaps be credited to this practice, or this manifested focusing. That's kind of what the New Age tulpamancy kind of revolves around. People start telling horror stories around campfires and in villages, and eventually enough people have heard that story that they become concerned, that they begin believing that it is really there, lurking in the darkness. So eventually this fear is forced into the physical world, and it becomes an actual manifestation. Behold the tulpa. And, I have to ask, isn't this at least in part what we saw with Slender Man? It started out as nothing more than a story on social media, but then that story, it did go viral, and shortly we had hundreds of thousands of people hearing this name and the description of this entity, this Slender Man. And it wasn't long after that we began getting actual reports. People were making police reports, calling the cops out to their homes because they know they saw the Slender Man in their house or in their backyard. We had people, the people that do like the pranks, dressing up as Slender Man and scaring people. And this belief in this object, this entity, this tulpa, because of it, we actually had people lose their lives. We had people take the lives of other people on behalf of the Slender Man. So, you know, there's something in Jewish folklore. And even though it's considered folklore, we have many people that would argue that it is in fact very real. They speak of the golem, a creation that was first mentioned over 2,000 years ago. This creature, or rather the belief of it, seems to resurface during times of strife for the Jewish people. Throughout history, there's hundreds of reports of these guardians, these protectors, these avengers, in some cases being crafted. You know, they will utilize clay and mud and create a humanoid structure, and then using these ancient rituals or occult rituals, they will scribe the name on its head or the scroll in its mouth, and it will be given life. It will be given a purpose. And again, we see the act of, or the story of, life being given to inanimate objects throughout history. It's a recurring premise all throughout ancient civilizations. Animal skins, assuming their own identities or their own desires, or acting on behalf of its creator to carry out that human's will. And usually it doesn't end well. We have museums filled with possessed dolls. One is located over here in downtown Omaha. And it's rather interesting. You can go. It costs money to get in, of course. They want to make money. And you can go through, and they'll even let some people do the little ghost hunts or whatever, and see these dolls that are claimed to move on their own volition. They can get up, whatever the case might be. We've had people that have gone in there and say, I saw it look at me. I saw it turn its head. And did it really do it? Or is it a case of an overactive imagination? I can't decide that. But the concept of the doll moving on its own, or the toy moving on its own, it's been with us forever. It's made its way into pop culture. It's made its way into movies. Dozens of movie. Poltergeist. Anybody else remember the clown drags the kid underneath the bed? We have dozens of movies with, I guess you'd say, living dolls, possessed dolls. They can move on their own. I'm watching the new Goosebumps series, Slappy the Puppet. He is very much a living, albeit demonic, doll. So, is there any reality to these creations? Could imaginary friends actually be something more? We have some people now that are actually proposing this, some people that are psychologists. Maybe as parents, we need to take an interest in those friends. We should ask questions. What does your friend look like? What is its name? Where did it come from? What is it like to do? Does it hate mommy and daddy? Because, just perhaps that friend doesn't only exist in the realm of that child's imagination. And with the release of the new Freddy's movie, I'm not going to be surprised if we suddenly start getting reports of sightings. Children crying out from their bedrooms, Mommy, Daddy, Freddy's under the bed or in the closet or standing in the corner waiting for me to close my eyes. Kids are going to be wanting flashlights or night lights, anything to keep the new monsters away, at least until the sun rises and they'll be safe. So, is it all just figments of the imagination? Or are imaginations creating physical manifestations. Just something to think about. You know what? I have a light right next to me. I think I'm going to tuck that under my pillow tonight. All right, guys. So that's it. I promised y'all I'd keep it short, and I kept it 20 minutes. I hope you all found it entertaining. Thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Mysteries After Dark. I've been your host, Jerry. Until next time, be safe. Goodbye.